Welcome to History Mysteries, where we journey through time to uncover the mysteries and marvels of our past. Today, we embark on an adventure along the legendary Nile River, the lifeblood of ancient Egypt. The Nile, stretching over 4,000 miles, has been a source of sustenance, culture, and inspiration for millennia. From its headwaters in East Africa to its delta in the Mediterranean Sea, this majestic river has witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. Join us as we explore the stories of the pharaohs, decipher the secrets of hieroglyphs, and marvel at the architectural wonders that still stand tall today. We'll dive into the daily lives of ancient Egyptians, uncover the mysteries of their gods, and understand how the Nile shaped their world. But the story of the Nile doesn't end with the ancients. We'll also look at how this river continues to influence the people and cultures along its banks in the present day. So, set sail with us on historic horizons as we unravel the timeless tale of the Nile River. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest adventures. The Nile River is not just a major geographic feature of northeastern Africa, but also a vital lifeline for the civilizations that have flourished along its banks for millennia. A significant part of its flow, approximately 86%, originates from Ethiopia, particularly through the Blue Nile. Here's an in-depth look into the history, hydrology, and geopolitical significance of the Nile River, emphasizing the crucial contribution of Ethiopia, the Nile's tributaries, and hydrology. The Nile River, the longest river in the world, stretches approximately 6,150 kilometers, 430 miles, from its sources in East Africa to its delta in Egypt, where it empties into the Mediterranean Sea. It has two primary tributaries, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. White Nile. The White Nile's origins are traced to Lake Victoria, which lies at the borders of Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. This river flows north through Uganda and South Sudan before converging with the Blue Nile in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. The White Nile contributes a steady flow of water year-round, but represents a smaller portion of the total Nile discharge compared to the Blue Nile. The Blue Nile, which provides approximately 86% of the total Nile flow during the rainy season, originates from Lake Tana in the Ethiopian highlands. The Blue Nile travels through Ethiopia and Sudan, where it joins the White Nile at Khartoum. Its contribution is especially critical during the summer months, June to September, when the Ethiopian highlands receive heavy monsoon rains, causing the Blue Nile to swell significantly. Atbara River. Another significant tributary from Ethiopia is the Atbara River, which merges with the Nile in Sudan. Although it contributes less than the Blue Nile, it still plays a role in the seasonal water dynamics of the river. Ancient understanding and early exploration. The ancient Egyptians revered the Nile, which they saw as a divine gift. They built their civilization around its predictable annual flooding, which deposited nutrient-rich silt onto the farmlands, allowing for the cultivation of crops. However, the Egyptians were unaware of the distant sources of the Nile. They attributed the river's behavior to the gods, with Hapi being the deity of the Nile inundation. The quest to understand the Nile's origins continued through antiquity. The Greeks and Romans, despite their control over Egypt, knew little about the upper reaches of the Nile. During the Roman Empire, various expeditions attempted to explore further south, but the true sources remained elusive. Mystery. Notably, James Bruce, a Scottish explorer, reached the source of the Blue Nile in Laket. Wasn't until the 18th and 19th centuries that European explorers began to unravel the Tana in 1770, significantly advancing the understanding of the Nile's hydrology. Colonial period and geopolitical implications. During the colonial era, particularly under British rule, the Nile's waters became strategically and economically important. The British undertook extensive studies to manage and exploit the Nile for agricultural and infrastructural projects. The construction of the Suez Canal in 1869 and later the Aswan Low Dam in 1902 were pivotal developments. Nile water agreements. Several treaties were established to allocate the Nile's waters among the riparian states. The 1929 Nile Waters Agreement and later the 1959 agreement between Egypt and Sudan allocated the bulk of the water to these two countries, with little consideration for upstream states like Ethiopia. Modern developments and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. In the contemporary era, the Nile's significance continues, intertwined with the geopolitical dynamics of the region. Ethiopia, keen to harness its substantial water resources for development, embarked on constructing the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, in 2011. This massive hydroelectric project, situated on the Blue Nile, aims to generate over 6,000 megawatts of electricity, positioning Ethiopia as a major power supplier in the region. Geopolitical tensions. The GERD has been a focal point of tension among Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. Egypt, which relies heavily on the Nile for its water needs, fears that the dam will significantly reduce its water supply. Sudan, while supportive of the potential benefits such as flood control and electricity, also harbors concerns about water availability and the safety of the dam. Negotiations and discussions have been ongoing, involving various international mediators, to reach a consensus on the filling and operation of the GERD. Ethiopia insists on its right to utilize its water resources for development, while Egypt and Sudan seek guarantees to protect their water security. Hydrological and environmental impact. The Nile's hydrology is profoundly influenced by seasonal variations, particularly the summer monsoons in Ethiopia. During the rainy season, the Blue Nile's flow increases dramatically, contributing to the annual flooding that has been the cornerstone of agriculture in Egypt and Sudan for thousands of years. Seasonal variations. The Blue Nile's contribution peaks between August and September, accounting for the majority of the Nile's flow during this period. This seasonal influx replenishes soil fertility along the Nile's banks, supporting the cultivation of essential crops such as wheat, barley, and various fruits and vegetables. Environmental concerns. Environmental concerns related to the construction and operation of dams on the Nile, including the GERD, include potential changes in the river's flow, sediment transport, and ecosystem impacts. Managing these environmental effects is crucial to ensure sustainable use of the Nile's resources. Cultural and historical significance. Symbol. In ancient Egypt, it was considered the lifeblood of the nation, and numerous deities the Nile River has not only been a source of sustenance, but also a cultural and spiritual associated with its waters. The river featured prominently in religious practices, literature, and art, influence on civilization. The Nile's predictable flooding allowed the ancient Egyptians to develop sophisticated agricultural techniques, leading to surpluses that supported urbanization, the rise of a complex society, and monumental architecture such as the pyramids and temples. The river also served as a vital transportation and communication route, facilitating trade and cultural exchange. Modern cultural impact. In modern times, the Nile continues to inspire literature, music, and art across the countries it flows through. It remains a symbol of life and continuity in the region. Future prospects and challenges. The future of the Nile River involves addressing several challenges, including sustainable water management, geopolitical cooperation, and environmental conservation. Sustainable water management efforts to develop integrated water management plans that consider the needs of all riparian states are crucial. Such plans would involve balancing water use for agriculture, industry, and domestic purposes, while preserving the ecological health of the river basin. Geopolitical cooperation. Continued dialogue and cooperation among Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt are essential to ensure that the Nile's waters are shared equitably and sustainably. International mediation and support can play a role in facilitating agreements that respect the interests of all parties. Environmental conservation, protecting the Nile's ecosystems, including its biodiversity and wetlands, is vital for maintaining the river's health. Environmental impact assessments and mitigation measures should be integral to any development projects on the river. Conclusion. The Nile River, with approximately 86% of its flow originating from Ethiopia, is a critical lifeline for northeastern Africa. Its history is deeply intertwined with the civilizations that have thrived along its banks, from ancient Egypt to modern-day Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. The Blue Nile's contribution is particularly significant during the rainy season, shaping the agricultural and economic landscape of the region. Understanding the Nile's hydrology, historical significance, and the contemporary challenges it faces is crucial for ensuring its sustainable future. Cooperation among the riparian states, supported by equitable agreements and sustainable management practices, is essential for harnessing the Nile's potential while protecting its vital resources for generations to come.